Hello, I'm Simon Whistler. You're watching the Today I Found Out YouTube channel, and in the video today we're looking at whether a dog's mouth is cleaner than a human's mouth. The short answer to this question is no. If this were the case, I'm pretty sure a dog's mouth would be some sort of medical miracle, considering that they rarely, if ever, have brushed their teeth, they literally put their mouth on everything, and they use their tongue as toilet paper for not only themselves, but also other dogs they encounter. Mouths are a great environment for bacteria to thrive, so barring some innate, very strong antibacterial agent in their saliva, this myth just wasn't going to be true. There are numerous types of diseases associated with dog bites, including tetanus, rabies, E. coli, etc., which point to the fact that a dog's mouth couldn't be sterile, as people often claim. Don't just take my word for it, though. According to a study on the relative amount of microbes in a human's mouth versus a dog's mouths have significantly more bacterial colonies than a human's mouth. In this study, they measured the number of bacterial colonies per square centimeter in a dog's mouth versus a human's mouth. The samples were taken after both had eaten and without the humans being allowed to brush their teeth before the sampling. The results were scaled down to a 1 to 4 scale, where 1 is the cleanest, with relatively few bacterial colonies, relative being the operative word, as both humans and dogs' mouths are teeming with microbes, and 4 being the grossest, meaning relatively high amounts of different bacterial colonies. According to the study, 10% of the dogs scored a 1, relatively clean, 30% scored a 3, and the remaining 60% scored a 4. With the humans, 70% scored a 1, 20% scored a 2, and 10% scored a 3. This small study backs up the intuitive notion that if you are someone who goes around eating garbage poop and pretty much putting anything and everything you find in your mouth, all the while typically never having your mouth cleaned in any way, then your mouth is going to have quite a lot more types of bacteria in it than someone who brushes their teeth regularly and doesn't go around eating poop and other such microbial gold mines. So where did this myth come from? It's likely that it started from people observing that dogs clean their wounds with their mouths, and it is scientifically proven to have less chance of getting infected than if they didn't lick it. The problem with this is that any wound that is cleaned regularly by licking or simply running water over it frequently will give you much less chance of infection than otherwise. There is no strong antibacterial agent working here, it is simply a case of cleaning off dead tissue and the like. Recent study of human bites has shown that the early literature depicting all human bites as having an extraordinarily high infection and complication rate was biased by its emphasis on human bites of the hand that presented late with infection already present. These bites, the so-called closed fist injuries, CFI, do indeed have a poor prognosis, but it may be as much due to their location and initial neglect as to the source of the injury. Human bites elsewhere do not seem to have any higher risk than animal bites, which have an infection rate of about 10%. A more recent 1995 study done by the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology observed the same thing. Human bite wounds have long had a bad reputation for severe infection and frequent complication. However, recent data demonstrate that human bites occurring anywhere other than the hand present no more of a risk for infection than any other type of mammalian bite. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do give us a like below and use the comment section to let us know what you think. And if you really like this video, why not share it with a friend? There are loads of social sharing tabs below this video, so select any one of those and share away. Over there on the right are a couple of other videos you might enjoy if you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.